Yes? See, I get that little back. And we had honeymooners, people on vacation. We got visitors here. I like to make sure we have that context so that we know where we are, right? So that's the first 27 chapters of Job. Today I want us to look at chapter 28. I want us to look at chapter 28. I'm going to stay here briefly. Let's see. Oh, we have to straighten this out a little bit. All right, let's go to Job chapter 28. While Q is getting that straight, I wouldn't be able to think straight, man, if it wasn't straight. The way I'm wired. Just help me out, Q, so you can get what you need to get today. Because you wouldn't get what you need to get today if I had to keep looking at that. God would be like, PJ, I think he calls me PJ. I don't think he calls me PJ. You failed today. I had a word for you to give, and all you kept doing was looking at the crooked line. So help me out. Help me help you. Amen. Yes, that's good. All right. I can think. All right. So we're here? Yeah. Of course we're here, because I'm there. All right. So let's read chapter 28, because chapter 28 is different. It's been a narrative so far with the introduction of Job. Then you see conversational, you see dialogue that happens, right? You have a little monologue in there in chapter 3 where Job, his friends are there, but they're silent and he's just speaking out from the loneliness, from the pain to himself, the dialogue. But now we have this poem that comes here in chapter 28. So I'm going to read it. It goes like this. It doesn't rhyme or anything. But it says, Job says this, there is a mine for silver and a place where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the earth and copper is smelted from ore. Mortals, man, put an end to the darkness. They search out the farthest recesses for ore in the blackest darkness. Far from human dwellings, they cut a shaft in places untouched by human feet. Far from other people, they dangle and they sway. The earth from which food comes is transformed below as by fire. Lapis lazuli comes from its rocks, and its dust contains nuggets of gold. No bird of prey knows that hidden path. But beasts do not set foot on it either. Proud beasts, they don't set foot on it. And no lion prowls there either. People assault the flinty rock with their hands, and they lay bare the roots of the mountains. They tunnel through the rock, and their eyes see all of its treasures. They search the sources of the rivers, and they bring hidden things to light. But where can wisdom be found? Where does understanding dwell? No mortals comprehend its worth. It cannot be found in the land of the living. The deep says, it's not with me. And the sea says, it ain't with me either. It cannot be bought with the finest gold, nor can its price be weighed out in silver. It cannot be bought with the gold of Ophir, with precious onyx, or lapis lazuli. Neither gold nor crystal can be compared to it, and nor can it be had for jewels of gold. Coral and jasper are not worthy of mention. The price of wisdom is beyond rubies. The topaz of Cush cannot compare with it. It cannot be bought with pure gold. Where then does wisdom come from? Where does understanding dwell? It is hidden from the eyes of every living thing, concealed even from the birds in the sky. Now, destruction and death, personifications, right, of spiritualities, these supernatural beings, if you will. Destruction says, guess what? Death says, guess what? I only heard a rumor of it. I ain't been able to find it either. God understands the way to it, and he alone knows where it dwells. For he views the ends of the earth and sees everything under the heavens. When he established the forces of the wind and measured out the waters, when he made a decree for the rain and a path for the thunderstorm, then he looked at wisdom and appraised it. He confirmed it and tested it. And he said to the human race, fear the Lord, that is wisdom, and shun evil, or shunning evil is understanding. Heavenly Father God, we thank you for today. God, as we transition into hearing a word for you, we pray, Lord God, that you just decrease me to the smallest capacity so that you may increase. God, allow me to be a free-flowing vessel that's full of your word, that pierces the flesh, that touches the heart, that meets each and every one of us exactly where we are. God, I pray that you not only minister through me, but to me as well. And God, we know that you are very purposeful. None of us are here by random, Lord God, and so we just pray that the word reaches and touches each and every one of us in a way in which you intended. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen, amen. So what's chapter 28 about? Wisdom. Oh, I tell you, y'all smart. Somebody must be doing their job.
Oh, Lord. Right. Teacher.
Chapter 28. It's about wisdom. What else is it about? Understanding. What else is it about? They said, well, wisdom and understanding, that was the easy part. What do you mean what else is it about? Watch this. This particular passage is split up in 3 parts. There's 3 ways to look at this. Line by line, section by section. The first part, which is verses 1 through 11, is this. The ability of man to obtain things that are valuable. You say, well, how do you get there from verses 1 through 11? You get that? You get that, don't you? Very explicitly, Job paints this picture verbally. He says, you know what? I'm going to list every precious jewel and stone that there is in the earth. Things that are extremely valuable from our standards. And guess what? Even though men have got to search high and low, even though they've got to toil, even though they've got to work extremely hard, even though that path may be lonely, even though that path may be dangerous, man still has the ability to obtain things that are valuable. The most valuable things in this world, if you fight hard, if you stick to it long enough, if you keep chipping away at it, guess what? Eventually, you will get something that was worth your effort. Everybody ain't willing to do this. Everybody ain't willing to travel down that road. Everybody not willing to put in the sweat equity. Everybody's not willing to forsake some other things, discipline themselves, and stay with the course. But guess what? Those who do it, they get what's valuable.
Yes.
And it switches here. Job is talking about himself. It's me, I. In chapter 26, he gets to 28, and now he starts to just reflect. So this is a chapter of reflection. Because now he's just talking about life and man. Life and humanity. He says, you know what? As people, I'm just talking about how life works, man. If you put in the work, if you do some things that others are not willing to do, guess what? You'll be able to get some things that will profit you in life. Just generally speaking. And I'm putting in the work because those are things that are actually worth the effort. They have value. The value is already there. So I've got to put in the effort. I've got to put in the time. I've got to give those things attention. I've got to take some risks sometimes to get things that are worth getting. He says, so all of that I get. But he ain't finished. Because in verse 12, what does he do? He transitions. He says, but I know all of that, but where can wisdom be found? I know that even though I cannot see everything else that has value, I know that if I search hard enough, it's accessible. I know if I work hard enough and dig deep enough and get into the deepest crevices, guess what? It's going to be there. It's what we need. We have access to it. And it, just because it doesn't come easy doesn't mean you can't have it. Even though you got to work for it, even though you got to sweat for it, don't mean it ain't for you. He says, so all of that stuff I comprehend, I get. But then he gets to part 2. Ooh, Jesus. Then he gets to part 2. Part 2 is from verses 12 to 19. This is what he says. I'm going to go back to that. He says, but where can wisdom be found? Where does understanding dwell? I know where everything else is that's of value. But where's wisdom at? Because that's what I need. Where is it at? Where does it dwell? I know where the gold is. I know where the silver is. I know where the onyx is. I know where the sapphire is. I know where all of the other jewels are. Even though they're not in plain sight, I know if you search long enough, they're accessible. He says, no mortal comprehends its worth. You don't even understand how valuable this stuff is. Meaning wisdom. It cannot be found in the land of the living. We can't find it. The deep says it's not with me. I don't care how deep you search. He said, I ain't got it, bro. I got the diamonds, I got the pearls, I got the sapphire. I ain't got that. That's beyond me. I don't know where that dwells. And I go deep. And I'm telling you, this is me, this is my area. You ain't gonna find it in my space. He says, so the deep says, I don't got it. The sea says, it's not with me either. It cannot be bought with the finest gold, nor can its price be weighed out in silver. And it cannot be bought with the gold of Ophir, the precious onyx, or lapis lazuli. Neither gold nor crystal can compare with it. No type of jewel, no coral, no jasper can be bought with pure gold. So essentially, the second part is the necessity, but also the inaccessibility of wisdom. Job says men can't even comprehend its value. We can work for things that have value, but I'm talking about what's most valuable. How come I can't get to that? Why does man struggle obtaining that? How come you can't work hard enough to get it? Job says this. Essentially, he's saying, you know what? I'm going to name all of the natural resources that are valuable. Physically in this world, things that carry the most valuable, or the most value. He says, but there's something that weighs more than that. It's something that this stuff don't even compare to. If you take all of it and try to get it, you cannot exchange that for wisdom. You can't pay with this stuff in this life for wisdom. He says, so from a natural standpoint, yes, everything else is accessible, but guess what? I need something else that's supernatural. I need something else beyond this world. I need something else that's not natural and not physical. And it's that's most valuable. Yeah. See, a lot of people get lost in the fuse. We live in a glorious creation, but the world is not glory in and of itself. And the world's got a lot to offer. Things that look nice, things that make you look nice, things that make you feel good, things that'll build you up to a certain extent. But they're not foundational. You can't stand on them, you can't live in them. But a lot of times people, because they have these things and because they have so much value, they have a false sense of security and thinking that they've actually obtained what's most valuable. And what do I say from time to time? That the enemy will deceive you into thinking that you can draw life from the things of life that were never created to give life. You know, by the look on Shay's face, I need to say that one more time. You know, when you get one of these looks,
Wow.
that lets me know, right, that God is speaking. That's hitting home. That's something that you need to remember.
That was good.
But the enemy will deceive us into thinking that we can draw life, that we can find purpose, that we can find meaning, that we can find fulfillment, that we can find identity from the things of life. The one who created it, right? Those are glorious. So the enemy deceives us into thinking that those glorious things are glory in and of themselves. But they were never created to actually give life, to give us what we truly need. They're not salvific. You can't stand on them and you can't live in them. But people try to. He said, I know he said all that. So Job is just talking about life. He's being very reflective right now. Because remember, the relationship with God is still there. He's just confused right now. He don't know what he's doing. He's got too many feelings that he's sifting through. And so he's going back and forth. Because the book ain't over either. He's reflecting. He's like, oh man, Job got it all figured out, don't he? No, he still don't. Life is like this sometimes, ain't it? You know what? I think I got it. This is what it is. I just know this is what it is. I got it. God spoke to me. I've been praying about this, and I'm good now.
Yeah, got it. Check.
And then about a month later, I thought I'm back at the drawing board. You journaling once again. Lord. Tears hitting the journal. Right? That's how life is. If we be honest with ourselves, I got a whole lot of prayers that I repeat. And I've got a whole lot of, man, boy, if it was tape on it, I'm telling you, I can say, run the tape. I've got a whole lot of tape of me saying, you know what, I'm good with that. And then I end up praying about that again. So this is Job. Job, he suffers this great loss. He loses everything. He said, you know what? Hey, everything was a gift from God in the first place. Naked I came to the world, naked I will leave. You know, I can't leave with stuff, so I gotta accept it. He did that. And then, man, Job good. He passed the test. How you lose all that stuff and you good, bro? Then he lose his figure. He lose how he look. And listen, I love the way I look. I do. I love the way I look. You know what I'm saying? My wife loves the way I look. My mama loves the way I look. Right? Now listen. And he still responds well.
Yeah.
Should we only accept the good looks from God?
Right. Those good things. Well.
Should we only accept the good from God and not the bad? You say, man, this dude good. How much else could you lose, man, and you good? But it don't end there. Because then that's where he goes on his way. He like, yeah, I know, God, I know that. But I'm feeling stuff. And people keep looking at me, reminding me of how I look. And I know how I used to look. And every time I see families running in the park playing, I don't know if they had parks back then, but every time I see people running through these hills and these mountains and these valleys, I'll be thinking about my family. I ain't no daddy no more. Right? Those are real feelings. You know I gotta bring levity to this because this is a heavy book.
Yeah.
So you see this cycle of emotions, right?
Yeah.
You think you're there, and then you get right back into the valley like, you know what? I don't get it. And I love the fact that God honors us with giving us the fullness. He gives us these examples to let us know that he's in tune to the fullness of us. God says, I know that you can believe in me. I know you can trust in me. I know you can have faith in me and still have conflicting feelings and emotions based on your life experience. And don't be scared to be honest with how you feel. If God is all-knowing, can God be lied to? You can only lie to somebody successfully if they don't know what you know. Right? Am I wrong or am I right? So we don't necessarily succeed ever in being dishonest with God. Why not tell me how you really feel if I know how you really feel? You don't have to sugarcoat our relationship. I understand you, I know you. Now let's in a healthy way, let's process through what you're feeling. God says, I'm a big boy, I can take it. Look at Job, you ain't even lost as much as he did. That was part two. The third part is this. So I know that the ability of men to obtain things of value in this life, I know that we can do that. There are certain things that are here that are worth having, that we can work for and get. But there's also something that we need that is most valuable, and it is inaccessible. I can't work to get it. My mind won't get me it. My strength won't get me it. My will and my work ethic won't get me it. You know, my mom was a hard worker. My daddy was a hard worker. I just keep working, man. That's how I've been able to make it. You know, I just got that work ethic. I just got that drive in it. Well, it ain't gonna get you this. It will get you things that are valuable, but it won't get you what's most valuable. So the third part is wisdom is only found in God. This is what he says. He says, where then does wisdom come from? I need to ask questions that are big enough for me to live in. I'm going to say it again a different way. Not today. In another message. Y'all going to get it. Where then does wisdom come from? You ever went through? So why would you ask that question? Why would you make this thing? You got to ask questions that are big enough for you to live in. Why would I say that? I'm gonna give you an everyday example. So we're going through this section right now, you know, from a business standpoint, right? We're meeting with brand managers and all this kind of stuff, right? So they go through this discovery phase, right? And during this discovery phase, they start asking you questions. It's questions that you ain't been able to ask yourself, but they're so skillful at what they do. They know where you're trying to go, and they ask you the right questions so that they can get the answers to take you to where you want to ultimately be in. We ultimately want to be good. We ultimately want security. We ultimately want to live eternally. We ultimately want identity. We ultimately want purpose. We ultimately want value, right? We ultimately want inner peace. The question is, are you asking the right questions to get those things to what you ultimately need? Are you asking questions that are big enough for you to live in?
It's good.
I know it is. Because it's from God, not from me. So Job says, from a reflective standpoint, I'm on one today, y'all. You know I get happy. I love teaching, I love preaching. I love this. Where then does wisdom come from? That is the right question.
Yeah.
Where does understanding dwell? Another question that is big that will put you in position to ultimately get to where you desire to be. It is hidden from the eyes of every living thing, concealed even from the birds in the sky. Destruction and death say only a rumor of it has reached our ears. And he says, God understands. He understands the way to it. Now we getting somewhere. First, I recognize the problem. The problem statement is, I got access to everything else in this world that has some value. But the problem statement is, I don't have what I need. Gold and money and everything else that we consider in this world ain't getting me through this trial. I can't put that on my soul. I can't soothe my soul with none of that. It's shiny, but it don't do anything for me. Not right now, not in this season when I need something more. So then he says, well, how do I get what I need? Because based on everything else in this world, the world cannot give me what I need. But I still need something. So my question doesn't stop there. I don't just throw up my hands and say, you know what? Well, since I can't get it in this world, and I can't get it from what I see, then there's no hope. No. He says, well, I know I have a problem, and I know I have a need. And I know that everything else that I can get can help a little bit, but it can't help ultimately. But I still need ultimate help. So, what do I do? How I get it? I know it's somewhere. I'm glad you asked. Those are questions that take you places. God understands the way to it, and He alone knows where it dwells. You ever traveled out of town to a city that you've never been in? You guys got to think pre-GPS. I know.
With the atlas.
It's awesome, man. Listen, there was a time in the arcade days, way back in the 1990s, when you used to have to travel with a map. You have somebody on the passenger side telling you where you're supposed to be going. You think you know where you're going. And then you get the question every now and then, did you turn? No, I didn't. But listen, when you go out of town to visit somebody who lives in that town, and they say, hey, let's meet here. So you meet, let's say, at a restaurant, right? And then you stand with them. So they say, hey, just follow me. You accept the statement, follow me. Because they know the way to their place of dwelling. And you don't. So you in this foreign space, and you know streets, and you know names, but you can't connect the two. You don't know what that is in proximity to where they live and the directions and all that. You have no idea of how that works together. Although you have some sense of it, now that you're in this space, you don't know. So you're comfortable letting them lead you to their place, which will eventually be your place. That's wisdom. Job says this. Now, I don't know where it's at. None of us know where it's at. But it exists. And guess what? It's only one person that knows. And even if I don't like the person that knows, it don't stop me from being in need. So I've got to either remain prideful and say, you know what, I'm kind of good, or I'm going to spend my life trying to find another way, or you can humble yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to follow your lead because you got what I need. This is what happens. God understands the way to it. You trying to get to where I'm at? Come to me. Follow me. You trying to get to what you need? I know where it dwells. I'm not going to tell you the location of it. But if you get me, you get it. So you going to follow me? Yeah. That's essentially what he says. And then you say, well, okay, well, why would he get that part? And then start talking about this. For he views the ends of the earth and sees everything under the heavens. When he established the forces of the wind and measured out the waters. When he made the decree of the rain and the path of the thunderstorm. Then he looked at wisdom and it was appraised and he confirmed it. Why would he start going into that? Essentially, why would he start talking about weather? He said, I don't know. You got me. Job says, you know what? If you've got things that are unpredictable, under control, because man can't even determine this. Man can't even determine the pathway and where things come from and how things are weighed from a natural standpoint when it comes to the weather. So if you've got all of this under control that is far beyond my understanding, things that I can't even fathom, then you're worthy of trusting. If you've got all of that under control, then guess what? You've got my little life under control. You've got everything that I need. You've got control over all of these situations. It seems like the bottom is falling out and things are falling apart. He said, if you've got all this under control, then you're good. You got me. His ways and what he's doing, how he operates is far beyond me. And even though I can't understand things right now, guess what? If he can understand all of this, then surely he's got me. So you have that. Man can obtain valuable things, but wisdom is both a necessity and inaccessible and only comes from God. So all I'll give you today. You know, the Bible is split up into different genres, right? Right? You got historical genres, you know, like First and Second Chronicles. We're going to teach that. First and Second Kings, First and Second Chronicles, things like that, your historical accounts, right? You've got epistles, which Paul wrote, which are just letters, right? And you also have wisdom literature. Wisdom literature, it's like Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. You say, man, Job falls under wisdom literature. Yes. Because there's both a simplicity and a complexity to living a wise life. I'm going to speak about this next week, but essentially, the pressing question throughout the entire book of Job is why? Why me? Why am I going through this? And so you wait the entire book, you have this buildup for an answer from God. And when God finally speaks, when God finally gives Job an answer, he doesn't answer him with a statement, he answers him with a question. And the question is pretty much a statement, if you will, and we'll get into it next week. But essentially, God doesn't necessarily give him the answer. He tells him, he says, don't put your focus on that problem and the answer to that problem directly. Put your focus on me. So essentially, Just trust me. From a wisdom perspective, that's the simplicity. Proverbs starts with this. Before Solomon gets into everything else, he says what? He's talking to his sons. The wisest man, right? He says what? Fear the Lord. The beginning of knowledge, right? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. A relationship with God is foundational to life. That's where you start. And at the end, he says just how you start is how you finish. You fear me, you have a relationship with me, and you shun evil. You do that all along the way. There are going to be things that you do not comprehend. There will be things that you do not understand. But keep your hand in mine. Essentially. And it also keeps us humble. Now, I can't say how until next week. You guys enjoy that? Yes?